We're starting today with a new unit under cost accounting, which is your unit 5, cost analysis for control. So under this unit, we're going to be studying these topics. Firstly, budgetary control. So we're going to study about the concept of budgetary control and the different types of budgets. And under that, we're going to be studying your functional budgets, which include sales, production, raw material, and labor. And we're also going to study cash budget, flexible budget, and your master budget. Okay, so besides that, we're also going to be studying standard costing and variance analysis. Under that, we're going to be talking about material variance, labor variance, and overhead variance. So this chapter is very simple. So let's move ahead and start with your budgetary control. So when we're discussing about budgetary control, the economic structure and the development of a state, of a country, of a government basically depends upon its budget, which reflects the formulation of the different policies, coordination of economic activities, and also the control of operations required in order to achieve the targets assigned to a period of time. So this is applicable in the case of businesses also. And a system of budgets is going to be necessary in order to plan and also to control the activities relating to your production and also your sales. It's always required to have a budget in order to ensure that the activities are going to be carried out properly. So present-day business units are going to be faced with stiff competition. So present-day business units are facing quite a stiff competition and uncertainty, and they are going to be exposed to risks. Progressive complexity of the business problems has also led to development of different management techniques to be useful to the management for successfully managing the business units. And as a result of that, budgeting has come into the picture. Now, budgeting is one of these techniques which is widely used for planning and control. And budgetary control has become a very important or very essential technique for cost control and profit maximization. With the help of budgetary control, costs are going to be reduced and controlled through reduction of wastage, creating of proper relationship between the cost and income, and also combining various factors of production in a profitable way. Now, this is possible only when the management undertakes effective planning, coordination, and control of the activities. Okay, budgeting or budgetary control is possible only when the management is going to be undertaking the working effectively and efficiently towards planning, coordination, and control of the activities of the business. And budgetary control is useful to the management to prepare detailed plans and also exercise effective coordination and control. So when we're talking about budgetary control, there are going to be quite a number of terms which we are going to be using over and over again, such as budgets, and then the term budgeting itself, control. Okay, so let's look at the meanings and definitions of all these different terms one by one. Firstly, let's look into the term budget. So a budget is basically a monetary or even a quantitative expression of business plans and policies to be pursued in the future period of time. And budgeting is basically preparing budgets and other procedures for planning, coordination, and control of your business enterprise. In fact, the term budget as we know it today has been derived from a French word budget, okay, which basically means a leather briefcase. Because traditionally, all these various documents which relate to revenue receipt, expenditure, as well as the speeches and all that are to be made are all kept in a leather briefcase or a budget. And as a result of that, now we have a term known as budget, which we are using in general whenever we want to describe the monetary or quantitative expression of your business plans and policies. Okay, so as per the ICMA, Institute of Cost Management Accountant of London. Okay, the ICMA, Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of London, define budget as a financial and or a quantitative statement prepared prior to a defined period of time of the policy to be pursued during that period for the purpose of attaining a given objective. So basically, budget based upon this definition would mean budget is a financial statement, and it can be, but it can also be a statement of quantities also with or without monetary data. Okay, so basically based upon the definition, we can see the features of a budget being a financial statement, but it can also be a statement of quantities with or without monetary data. Additionally, a budget is going to be prepared for a particular period of time and is generally prepared in advance. And then the budget is a detailed plan of a policy to be pursued during a particular period for which that budget has been prepared. And the main function of budget is to attain a specific objective. Now, in the words of Howard and Crown, a budget is basically a predetermined statement of management policy during a given period, which provides a standard for comparison with the results actually achieved. Okay, and therefore, based upon these definitions and based upon the meaning, we can say that a budget is a numerical statement which expresses plans, policies, as well as the goals of the enterprise for a definite period of time. Okay, and the next term we are learning is budgeting. So budgeting basically refers to the process of preparation of your budgets. Okay, budgeting is the process of preparing budgets, and it involves a detailed study of your business environment, clearly grasping the management objectives, the available resources of the enterprise, and also the capacity of the enterprise. So in case of budgeting, it is a process of preparation of the budgets, and it keeps in mind the objectives of the management or the goal of the managers, and what is available in the organization and what is the organization capable of. Okay, so that is budgeting, and budgeting is defined by J. Batty as the entire process of preparing the budgets is known as budgeting. Therefore, budgeting is basically, as we've seen already, a process of making budget plans, and preparation of budgets or budgeting is a planning function, and the implementation is a control function. And as a result of that, we can say that budgetary control, it starts with budgeting and ends with control. Okay, so budgetary control starts with budgeting. Budgeting involves preparation of plans, and after you've prepared the plans and all, then you'll move towards control. So therefore, the next term we are learning about is control. So control, it may be defined as comparing operating results with the plans and taking corrective action when results deviate from the plan. So as we already know, when we're talking about control, it is when they have moved in a separate way, but when you're bringing it back to the original way, right? Control is the same even in case of the functions of management also. When we are learning about the functions of management under control, and we heard about control, where you have already planned the way, and if you're moving or if there are any deviations, when you're bringing it back, taking corrective measures, that will be termed as control. So control is basically a mechanism according to which something or someone is guided to follow the predetermined course. And control will basically require two things. Firstly, that there is a clear-cut and specific plan according to which any work is to be proceeding to move. Okay. Firstly, there should be a standard or a plan. And secondly, that it is possible to measure the results of the operation with a view of detecting deviations. And only then action can be taken to prevent or correct deviations. So firstly, two things are required. Firstly, it's required that we should have a plan. And secondly, that it's possible to take measures in case of following the wrong direction or in case of deviation from the plans. Okay, so that is about control. And next we have budgetary control. So when we're talking about budgetary control, it is the process of preparation of budgets for various activities and comparing the budgeted figures for checking of any deviations which are to be eliminated in the future. So basically, budgetary control, it includes budgeting and also control. Okay, it includes budgeting, which is preparation of budgets, and control, which is checking for deviations and correcting the deviations. Therefore, budget is a means and budgetary control is the end result. Okay, so budgetary control is a continuous process which involves or which helps in the planning and coordination as well. And it also provides a method of control. So for definition, according to Brown and Howard, budgetary control is a system of coordinating which includes the preparation of budgets, coordinating the work of departments and establishing responsibilities, and then comparing also the actual performance with the budgeted and acting upon results to achieve maximum profitability. Now, according to ICMA, it has defined budgetary control as the establishment of budgets relating the responsibilities of the executives to the requirements of a policy, and the continuous comparison of actual with budgeted results, either to secure by individual action the objectives of that policy or to provide a basis for its revision. Okay, so remember, in case of budgetary control, it talks about budgeting as well as control, and budget is a means, whereas budgetary control is the end result. Okay, so these are the various meanings and definitions that we're seeing with regards to budget. So next we'll talk about the differences between forecast and budget. So when we're talking about forecast and budget, both of these terms, both budget and forecast, are mainly about foreseeing future events. Okay, when you're forecasting, you're predicting something that will happen. Similarly, in case of budget also, you're predicting something that will happen, and because of that, you're going to prepare a budget, right? So, however, even though their basic concept is the same, there are still a few differences between these two terms. So firstly, look at budgets. They are mostly concerned with expected or probable events. Okay, in case of forecast, they are mostly concerned with expected events or something that may happen. Okay, whereas in case of budgets, they are concerned with planned events, something that you yourself try to do. Okay, in case of forecast, it's something that may happen and something that might happen, whereas in case of budgets, it is something that will happen. You've already planned on it happening. And the second point, in case of forecast, it is generally done for a long duration of time. So in case of forecast, they are made for long-term durations, okay, whereas in case of budgets, they are for shorter, specific duration of time. They are not for long periods, they are generally for shorter periods, which are quite specific in nature. And then in case of forecast, the third point, result of forecasting is planning, whereas in case of budgets, result of planning is budgeting. Okay, so from forecasting, you get planning, and then from planning, you get budgeting. All right, and then next point, in case of forecast, it is a mere estimation, something that you are just predicting may or may not happen. Whereas in case of budgets, the target is going to be fixed for a certain period of time. And then the next point, in case of forecast, it does not act as a tool of measurement. Okay, it is not a tool of measurement. You're just predicting something. You're just hoping something will happen. Whereas in case of budgets, they are targets against which actuals are going to be compared. In case of budget, the target is already fixed, right? So they can be compared with something else. They act as a tool of measurement. And the last point under forecast, it refers to events over which there is no control because it may or may not happen, expected probable events. Whereas in case of budgets, they are events which are already planned in nature, therefore we have control over them. Okay, so in case of budgets, propose a budget is to control the activities. So as we said earlier also, budgetary control involves budgeting as well as control. Therefore, budgets, the main purpose is to control the activities. Okay, so these are the various differences between forecasting and budgeting. So moving on, let's talk about the different objectives that we have for budgetary control. So why does an organization opt for budgetary control? Why does it need budgetary control as such? Budgetary control is inevitable, especially for policy formation, planning, control, as well as coordination. In fact, the essence of budgeting is to plan and control, right? That is why it's very important. Budgetary control is very important, especially for planning, control, coordination, as well as policy formation. So the main objectives of budgetary control are, firstly, planning. Budgeting ensures effective planning by setting up of budgets. Secondly, coordination. Budgets are also helpful in coordination of your various business activities. Okay. And third point, efficiency and economy. Effective budgetary control will often result in cost control, and as a result of cost control, it will lead to cost reduction, which will be economical for the organization. Okay, and then the next point, it helps to increase profitability because the costs are going to be controlled, costs are going to be reduced with the help of the budgets. Therefore, we are able to earn more profits, and as a result, it will increase profitability. Okay, and the next point, anticipation of future capital expenditure. Now, estimated increase in sales will necessitate higher production capacity, providing advance warning for a possible capital expenditure in near future. Okay, because there is going to be increase in sales, and when there is an increase in sales, it is especially a warning that will show that in the future we will have further capital expenditure in the form of maybe we are purchasing more machines, okay, more assets in order to be able to produce more. And next, we have control. Controlling function is going to be made effective as the control will be centralized, while budgets are going to be prepared and implemented as well. And the last point, last objective is deviation. Ascertainment of deviations is essential in order to fix responsibility and correct the deviations as far as possible. So another important objective of budgetary control is to identify what are the problems, where are the deviations arising from, and based upon that, we'll be able to fix the responsibility. Okay, be able to identify who's the person responsible for the deviation, which department is responsible, or what are the actions, what are the objectives that have been made that are responsible for the problems or deviations, and based upon that, they will correct the deviations to whatever extent possible. Okay, and next you have advantages of budgetary control. Now, budgetary control is quite helpful in setting up of targets for the whole concern and also for the achievement of the targets. And based upon that, it also makes the various operations of the enterprise economical. So we have a few advantages of budgetary control. First advantage you have is maximization of profit. Budgetary control, it aims at increasing the overall profits of the organization. Now, profit making is, of course, the number one objective of any organization. And as a result of that, budgetary control aims also at increasing the profits of the organization. This is going to be achieved through proper planning, coordination, as well as control of different activities in a very coordinated and programmed manner. Okay, next one, effective coordination. Performance and working of various activities is going to be effectively coordinated through budgetary control. In fact, budgets of various functions are going to be interlinked and dependent, and the effective implementation of the budget will depend upon the cooperation of the concerned personnel of different departments. Now, emphasis is going to be laid on coordination and cooperation because this will help to achieve the predetermined targets and goals. As a result of that, this is one of the advantages of budgetary control. And the next point is evaluation of executive performance. So another advantage of your budgetary control is that it helps to evaluate the performance of the managers or the executives. So goals are going to be set for each department. Actual performance will be compared with standards, and deviations are going to be reported to the top management for action against any kind of unfavorable deviations. And through this, the performance of the department heads and other executives will be constantly monitored. And the fourth point you have there is clear-cut goals and targets. So through the process of budgeting, the goals of different departments are going to be set in advance in consultation with those who are in charge of them. So different goals will be set for different departments based upon the agreement of those in charge of those departments, okay, based upon the agreement of the department heads. So this makes the vision of the organization clear, and also motivation. Employees will be motivated and morale will be boosted by achievement of the clearly set objectives, because when the heads themselves will set the goals will become realistic because they know how they're working, they know what is the work to be done. So because of that, the goals are going to be realistic. So employees will be motivated and morale will also be boosted when they achieve the clearly set goals. And the next point is economy in operations. Expenses are going to be properly planned, financial resources are also going to be put to optimum use, and the benefits are going to be extended to the industry and then to the national economy. So budgetary control is quite useful in conservation, effective utilization, as well as elimination of wastage in scarce resources. And then the sixth point you have revelation of ineffectiveness. Comparison of actual performance with budgeted performance will reveal the weak spots so that the attention is going to be focused on them in order to improve the performance. Okay, because remember, in case of budget, we already have fixed targets. Okay, we have what we need to achieve, that is the budgeted performance, and we can compare the actual with the target, and then after that, if there are any differences, we can find out if it's, and then we can focus attention in order to improve the performance. And the seventh point, correction of performance continuously. The deviations of actual performance when they are compared with the budgets are going to be frequently reported to the heads or to the head managers, and the corrections will be made to rectify any unfavorable deviations immediately. So in the absence of budgetary control, this may be done at the end of the accounting year, by which time maybe the corrections may be not fruitful or practicable. So in case of your budgeting, as I've said already, we've seen already, they're going to be continuously studying, comparing the actual and the target, or comparing the actual and the budgeted performance. And if they are not performing well, then the deviations will be changed. So this is a continuous process. So rather than waiting until the end of the financial year, until the end of the accounting year to check for any problems and then make corrections. It's always better to go through it continuously, because if you're correcting the problems at the end of the financial year, it may be useless. It may not be fruitful. There may not be any possibilities for change, or it may not even be practicable. Okay, so another advantage of budgetary control is that you're capable of evaluating performance continuously. And the next point, introduction of incentive schemes of remuneration. Incentive schemes can be easily introduced as the predetermined targets will act as a base to compare actual performance and also to determine efficiency. So the higher and lower efficiency are going to be suitably rewarded or discouraged respectively. Okay. And the final point, final advantage will be shutting down of unprofitable products and activities. Now, budgetary control, as we've already seen, is going to be studying the target performance and the actual performance, and then they're going to compare these two. So budgetary control reveals inefficiencies in products, processes, as well as departments. Thus, based upon this study, it will be quite helpful for them to close down any loss-making decisions which will affect the overall profitability of your firm. Okay, and then moving on, limitations of budgetary control. Now, budgetary control, as we already saw, has multiple objectives and multiple advantages. So it is a very effective tool for management control. However, it also has certain limitations while operating it as a technique. So you have some 5 limitations listed here, and the first limitation is prediction of uncertain future. Budgeting is a process of forecasting and also estimation. And forecasting, estimation, all of these are done for the future, and the future is always uncertain. Therefore, forecasting may not be accurate. And as a result of that, budgets which are based upon inaccurate forecasts and estimates, they may not be accurate and effective. Okay, so you may have predicted that it's going to be raining, and as a result of that, you have budgeted to buy umbrellas for your guests. Okay, but let's just assume you predicted it's going to rain, you forecasted rain, and you have bought umbrellas for your guests. However, it did not rain and the umbrellas went to waste, and based upon that, you suffered some amount of loss. So prediction is uncertain. Therefore, this is one of the main limitations of budgetary control. And the second is changes of conditions. Now, budgets are going to be prepared on the basis of certain prevailing conditions. They are prepared mostly keeping in mind certain historical conditions. Now, if the conditions change, the budgets will also be needed to be revised. And constant changes in the budgets may, of course, frustrate the employees. And as a result of that, the importance, the desire, the charm of budgeting and implementation will be lost. And the third point is complacence. General tendency of employees is to achieve the targets as budgeting fixes the targets. Okay, for example, they said you have to produce 10 units, so the target is 10. You may have been able to produce 15 to 20, but because the budget is 10, you're only going to be producing 10. So this leads to complacence. Employees become lazy. So some of the employees who are highly skillful may also be satisfied in performing only up to the goal set without showing their full potential, which would result in a loss to the enterprise, as well as it will affect also the employee in terms of productivity. And then fourth point, difficulty in coordination. Now, effective implementation of budgetary control, it depends upon proper coordination among your various departments, as the performance of the department also depends on the work of other departments and vice versa. So it requires the budgetary officer to oversee the integration of various activities to successfully implement the budget, and ineffective coordination as such would lead to ineffective performance. So when it comes to budgetary control, because it involves various departments, so if there's no proper coordination, it will be quite difficult to implement budgetary control. And finally, conflict among different departments. Budgetary control will set targets for different departments individually, keeping in mind what is required, what is not required for the firms. So this will make the department heads to become selfish in order to get maximum funds, and also they'll think only in terms of achieving their own set targets. They will not be thinking in terms of achieving organizational goals. Therefore, it will lead to conflicts among various departments, and interdepartmental rivalries may endanger the performance of the whole organization, because now they're no longer working for the organization, but rather they're only working for each other or for their own firm. Okay, so this would lead to a problem when carrying out the budgetary control. So these are the limitations of budgetary control.